Okay, so it is 6:42 p.m. We will call the meeting to order. First order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. I have 3 additions to make under new business. The first is we're going to add a discussion about the town forest with Carissa from the Conservation Commission. We also need to add a lister resignation under new business. And we also need to amend the license approval for Mindful Bellies that we did last time. Nothing bad, there was an outside consumption permit that we didn't include.
Okay.
So, any other additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the approval of the minutes of the May 1st meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make that motion.
Great.
I'll second.
Great, so we have a motion made by Leanne and seconded by Suzanne. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
I didn't see any.
All right, hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So what I'd like to do now, if there's no objection, we're gonna jump around the agenda a little bit. The bid openings are all here. Dean Pierce from Regional Planning is gonna join us for that. He's on another call in the other room.
Okay.
So as soon as he's done with that, we'll pivot and go to that
Okay.
item.
Okay.
If there's no objection, what I'd like to do is go to the Conservation Commission at this point. That way we can chat with Carissa, and then you can stay or leave if you want, but we'll get it done so you can get on with your evening if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And should I just sit up there so Larry can hear as well?
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you sit up here and I will turn this way and we will see if Larry can hear you okay. So Larry, Carissa is joining us at the table, so hopefully you'll be able to hear her on the mic.
Hey Larry, how's it going?
Considering my age and bad habits, not too bad, you dear.
Right on.
All right,
Likewise.
great. All right, Carissa, the floor is yours.
Thanks everybody. So last year we got a grant and basically had a sinuosity report and a ecologist have the town forest assessed to do one, first and foremost, what does Montgomery want to do with the town forest, and then secondarily, if we did a trail network, what would that be? What other things do we have to take into account? So site conditions, tributaries, forest condition. This is slightly apart from the forest management plan aspect. So Charlie created that and it's on the town website. It has not been formally adopted and I don't believe it's been this report has been incorporated with it.
So the trail plan.
The trail plan. Yep,
Okay.
so this is like separate. We had the site assessed. We had Sinuosity Mariah P.E.G come out and Jeff Parsons. And we did a survey for a survey with the town. And basically everything that scored higher was walking, wildlife habitat, education, wildlife viewing, and cross-country skiing. So we incorporated that feedback into the report and they created 2 trails basically outlined. So one is about 0.27 of a mile and it's a short little route that could be potentially someday handicap accessible or limited mobility. It's a very small loop that comes right off the road and could be just.
Is that the best map to show that, or here we go. Is this the
Yeah,
best?
there you
This is the
go.
best
How many acres is that?
It's 50 acres.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Where's the access point?
Yeah.
Yeah,
map. So this is the road
Yep.
down here.
and that's off of
Okay.
West Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the brook.
Yeah, so at the very southern aspect, just to the right, would be potentially where you could park and we could have a handicap ramp someday, which was discussed, and then we just kind of have to figure out funding.
On West Hill, you said?
So it's off West Hill, it's just a short,
Oh, okay.
unnamed route,
No school bus turnaround?
or
Plow
snowplow
turnaround?
turnaround.
Snowplow turnaround.
Snowplow
Yeah, at the
turnaround?
end.
Before you go up the big hill?
Yeah.
So right there, if you take a right and go down that road.
Oh,
Yeah.
does that road ultimately connects to Enosburg Mountain Road?
Don't think so.
No, the property actually does, but it's up there a ways, and
Okay.
it's through Boys and Olds property.
Uh,
This is part of the Bass Trail, though, that road,
yeah.
and so it kind of veers off to the left there,
Okay.
through the property.
Gotcha.
So they looked at the site conditions. Some of the forest has some steepy side hills, you know.
Oh,
Also, some of the area is quite dry and nice for hiking. So that's another reason why we're able to do an actual layout for the trail. It does have an old logging access where the trail is deeply incised, and so the water table tends to follow it, which has some water quality issues to it.
oh, okay.
So this plan would also incorporate within that trail trying to mitigate some of those issues that are currently it looks to be actively eroding a bit.
Okay.
The Conservation Commission would like for this to be reviewed and potentially any questions that are needed asked, and then potentially put it to an adoption vote so that we can start looking at bidders to implement the trail.
Okay.
And those funds would be through the Conservation Commission, not the town,
Mhm.
as well as any potential grants that we can utilize, leverage, apply to. So thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
The tread construction, they estimated, Sinuosity did this estimate around 25,000. And then for the structure costs, so there's a tributary that crosses part of this trail, and it's part of the old logging trail that is slightly eroding. To put in potentially a footbridge there, as well as any like small tribs that are like the CP, coming off the land. And we had this assessment done, because Charlie and I identified water quality issues associated with the trail, and to try to find out if we could implement a trail while also mitigating some of those issues we're seeing. Wild and Scenic helped fund this report, and they are interested in the next steps taken
Oh, yeah.
with
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
Because it's a headwater area for West Hill Brook,
Yeah.
and so just trying to mitigate some of the old logging trails that are actively eroding still, as well.
So all this information's on the website?
So the forest management plan is, I need to double check if we posted the Sinuosity report, but we should do that as well, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So people can see it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of, wanted to take this step first to see
Oh, yeah.
any questions that you guys have that float to the top, so I can look at it, assess it,
Yep.
and get you answers,
Mhm.
basically.
Okay.
One question I had was, it's on the budget, there's 2 footbridges. One is 28 feet, one is 15 feet.
Yep.
And the 28-foot one is coming in at 10,000, whereas the 15-foot one is coming in at 900. And I was just wondering if is there a different kind of bridge construction we're looking at?
Yep.
Or, because on the
Yeah.
face of it, the ratio of cost per linear foot doesn't
It's
quite line up.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So the 15-foot would be kind of like one of your low seepy tributaries where you can tell like water does come through there, but overall the low area is wet, and you would just be protecting the soil quality at that time and not making it. also the foot traffic as far as like not walking through a wet hole. The 28-foot footbridge would be included probably a footer,
Oh,
some
okay.
type of construction of a footbridge and another footer, and being to the ability to hold body weight as well as have protection measures so that nobody gets injured off of it.
Oh,
Okay.
So
Because
that's
it's
a
over
different-
an actual river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not named, but it's a stream and
Yeah.
it's dynamic.
It would
So
be,
it's been meandering.
Okay.
It'd be this one right here is what we're looking at?
Yep.
Oh,
Okay, yep.
Yeah, just make sure I'm oriented. Yep,
Yep.
that's the one.
So
Okay.
one other thing that I was curious about, sometimes the colors with contours and everything else can make it hard to see, but
Yep.
you've got the loop down here, you've got the upper trail that comes up on the ridge and runs the top. For the loop, you've got the trail that comes down here. Does this trail end up reconnecting anywhere, or is this kind of a,
It does not, although it kind of just it goes down to the other trib, and then the trib is just kind of like a slanted slope. So it's not brought back through. I do remember walking through the portion that it's not drawn through, and that is a CP section. So that may be why it wasn't interconnected, although we could also assess that and see if
Could
it
be,
could connect.
yeah,
Yeah.
possibly a
Have
phase two or something like that?
Yeah, totally.
Because I remember, I guess it was down here, I remember walking and seeing flags along the river, but that makes more sense that it's in this loop, this flag, I think.
Yeah, that one's kind of like a terrace higher
Yeah.
level area. That's the Norway spruce
Yep.
planted forest. So
Oh, okay.
yep. So then the other trail goes through an early successional / like mixed hardwood stand trail. And it hasn't been logged for a while, so there's just some gorgeous stone features and trees there, and just this ginormous hemlock that trail would take it by,
Yeah.
which is kind of a cool feature. Anyway,
Yeah.
so you guys have a whole meeting to go. Any questions I can answer?
No. Anybody have any questions for Carissa?
No.
Mm.
Sorry, my brain's a little fried from the weekend.
Yeah, no,
so.
it's okay. So we can either wait and give folks more time to
So
review.
how can we access this?
I sent it via email.
Oh, you did, okay.
And then, I mean, if you guys want me to post it to the website before you have a chance to
No, we
look at
probably
it.
can look at it first.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, so then do we want to wait and give folks a chance to review this a little bit more and then adopt it at the next meeting?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance.
Okay, great.
That was the intention, was
Yeah.
sending it to you and then
Yeah.
coming tonight, so
Okay,
thank
Great.
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks.
yeah, thanks.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
You as well.
Yeah,
Okay, so that got us through the added item with the Conservation Commission. Dean is still not joining us yet, so if it's okay, why don't we continue with new business items? Item A on here is a pretty standard thing we do every year, I think. This is a request for an extension for filing the grand list abstract with the state. We tend to send this in every year, even if we don't necessarily need it, just so that we have it in place for the listers. So if they
Oh, okay.
if they are behind in getting it filed. It's essentially just a short letter to Jill Remnick, who's the Director of Property Evaluation and Review. Dear Director Remnick, the listers of the town of Montgomery request a 30-day extension under Title 32, Section 4342. Sincerely, Genevieve, Chair of the Listers, Charlie, Select Board Chair.
okay.
So again, I don't know that they're gonna require the extension, but Genevieve asked us to file one so that if they needed it, it was
Okay.
already in place.
So I'll make a motion to file the grand list extension. Is that what it's called? Grand list
yeah.
abstract.
It would be a request, yeah, it's a request to, for an extension to file the abstract.
Okay, yeah.
I'll second that.
Great. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Great, motion carries. I'll leave that just there for signature. All right. Next up, this is just a point of information, plus the board can move to accept the letter of resignation, but we did get a formal resignation by email from Sharon Newland. So Sharon was elected, as a lister at town meeting. Sharon was not present at town meeting.
Okay,
So she was elected without any kind of ability on her side to comment on it. She thought about it for a long time, but does not have the capacity to do it right now.
Okay.
So she has formally submitted an email resignation via via Genevieve to resign the position. So the action would be to accept the letter of resignation.
Make a motion to accept Sharon
Hey.
Newland's letter of resignation.
I didn't know you guys broadcasted this, I would've stayed home and watched it. You gonna put the bids right off?
Yeah, as soon as Dean is done with the call he's on.
Yeah, okay,
So-
I didn't know if it was look further on in the agenda. I
No,
don't
it's
want it.
as soon as he's done, we'll pivot to it. So I'm hoping it's going to be within the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Where is that after, on your website?
Northwest Access TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize you guys did it.
So we have a motion to accept the resignation from Sharon by Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. We have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries and you've adopted the resignation letter. There's no volunteers to appoint this evening. They're still looking for
Okay.
folks. So there's no action there, but the need was to formally accept her resignation. So that's done. We have,
We voted town meeting to change that, to listers.
so we didn't vote at town meeting
Or
to formally change the composition. Before town meeting, we had discussed about changing the framework
Yeah,
within which to basically bring in the outside assessor to then get that done and have the listers advise the process
and that would take
and have
some of
final
that.
signing authority. Yeah. So I believe that the listers are still trying to get like quotes
Oh,
from
okay.
assessors
Okay,
to try to line that up. So when the time comes and they have a final recommendation,
Okay.
then they bring it to us.
okay.
So the budget is set up to support it, but we haven't formally made the adoption of that change
Of course,
yet.
that's the budget for 2024.
Yeah, this coming,
Yeah,
because we're not into that fiscal year yet.
okay.
Yep.
I was wondering what the- Yeah,
So moving down, website contract, so we discussed this previously. Emily did connect with me today, and Emily's been managing the process. And I think Emily is good to go on Zach's contract. One of the questions we had coming out of the last meeting was around Liz and her ability to manage workflow. One of the concerns was that if Liz was only posting things once a week, that it could back up and there'd be a potential to not have something posted in time to meet open meeting requirements.
yeah,
So what Liz has agreed to do is post things on Wednesdays and Fridays. And so that way because the main one that we're concerned about, at least us, is the select board agendas. And those go out Fridays for the following Mondays. Wednesday would be your other day for posting, and so we'll have to get the info to everybody so they know when to get things to her for posting, but that's
Cool.
the,
so that should take care of all the other boards.
Yep,
You're posting.
that's the expectation,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
And then Erin is gonna give her the additional login that she'll use to track her time, doing that work,
okay,
so that she can essentially punch in and out for that.
okay.
So, the action tonight would just be to adopt, Zach's, contract. We went over this last time. Basically, it moves him to an hourly services agreement at $25 an hour, rounded down to the nearest quarter hour. It hasn't changed since last time. Anybody want to take one more peek at it, or?
Yeah, we
No?
did it.
Okay.
It was all good.
So then the action here would be to move to adopt the contract from made by Hike is his company's name, but it's under Zach Scheffler, so we'll say adopt the contract from Zach Scheffler.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Great. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of adopting the contract with Zach for website maintenance, the webmaster role, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So Dean has now joined us. Dean's been our municipal project manager for the odyssey that is the Longley Bridge stream bank stabilization project.
A long process.
And so tonight we are opening these sealed bids. Dean, do you want to give any quick preamble to this, or?
I can just say maybe what you were gonna say, that tonight there's really nothing done other than opening, reading aloud the base bid, and then I'm going to cart them away to take them to the design engineer who has to do an analysis. And then the steps from there are to determine who the lowest responsible bid is and take care of paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork. You've probably heard.
Great. So Larry, I don't know if you caught that because of the way the mics are working tonight, but tonight's action is just to open the sealed bids and review the base amount for each bid, following which Dean is going to take the entire bid back to Ryan, the engineer that we're working with, and they're going to do a more detailed review. So we're not going to be adopting any of these this evening, it's just going to be opening them to then read the base amount. So we've got 4 bids. 3 came in by mail, 1 came in by email. So first bid is from Goodhue Excavation Inc. Is there a specific spot in these, Dean, where the base bid?
Is it?
Usually bottom.
There we go. So this is from Goodhue Excavation Inc. We have a total base bid of $367,830. $367,830. That is from Goodhue. From King's Trucking and Excavating, LLC. From King's Trucking and Excavating, LLC, we have a total base bid of $254,220. So again, that's $254,220, and that is from King's Trucking and Excavating, LLC. Next up, we've got Kirk Fenoff and Son. Do you recognize that name?
No.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, is that the right, is it
Yeah,
Fenoff?
you said it right, yeah.
Okay, Kirk Fenoff and Son. Total base bid, $497,420. So again, this is
You don't even need dope from mine, Charlie. Maybe Kevin do
let's do it. I mean, so as an aside too, like just the number doesn't drive the
Yeah, but
award totally.
Yeah.
So again, $497,420. This is from Kirk Fenoff and Son Excavating.
we shot from the head.
And then the last one we have is from St. Ange.
I couldn't get anybody to quote those trees.
Oh, yeah,
There's a lot of trees.
yeah.
The quote I did get was more than a
Okay, and this is from St. Ange. Total base bid, $919,400. So again, repeat it one more time for the record. 919,400.
We know, we knew it was gonna be that. I just wanted to
All right, well, we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right, so those are the 4 bids.
wow.
We have now opened the 4 bids.
That's why you gotta look at them closer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could say what the engineer's looking at is for balance. And they wanna make sure that things are
Mhm.
not unbalanced, and they can be unbalanced a couple different ways. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they could look at it and say, well, no, there's something really too wonky about one of them, and determine it's not right.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll get this turned around very, very soon and we can move on.
oh, okay, yeah. So next step is for you to get back to us and then.
Yeah, I'm going to be, like I say, delivering them to the engineer. He will do the analysis, and then we will only inform the, I'm just checking my cheat sheet here.
Yeah,
We will alert the bidders after that.
Once the analysis is complete, we'll alert the bidders.
In terms of, so. Too many cheat sheets here. Yeah, so once the bid review and analysis is completed, the bidders will be notified by email of the low bidder and provided a copy of the bid tabulation.
And then it comes back to us to accept one of the bids, right?
Yeah, the funding that you're using, you're looking to identify the lowest responsive bidder. So if someone was the lowest and they weren't responsive, then they'd get tossed out of the pile. Some of the reasons why something might be found non-responsive is they didn't do something as simple as sign it, they didn't provide the bid bonds, they're just a list of things that could take them out of the running.
Okay, great. Well, here you go.
Okay,
You can take these and get them to Brian and we will
and we'll be off.
be on. Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks so
thank
much. All right, well, we're on Public Works. Why don't we stick here? And Mark, any updates?
Yeah, so we talked to Dirt Tech today and they plan on starting the Go West project.
Just trying to speak up a little
May-
bit just to make sure that.
May 30th, the week, right after Memorial Day. And at the same time, they're gonna be working up on Black Falls, cause Consolidated is gonna be moving the phone line at the same time, and they're gonna be helping them with that. And so they plan on having, both projects done by the end of June. It shouldn't take more than a couple weeks. Because the Hill West project has to be done by June 30th. But the Black Falls doesn't need to be done till September 30th, but they're gonna try to get them both done around the same time. So that's the update on that.
Sorry, what's the target, the date that we have to have the Black Falls one done is what?
Black Falls is September 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're doing 2 grants on Black Falls. We're doing the FY '23 and FY '24. So I just have to keep track of what, the bills for FY '23, keep them separate, the both grants. So, yeah, and then they both have to be done by September 30th.
Great. And when does the Hill West one have to be done by?
June 30th this year,
Great.
which shouldn't be a problem.
Great.
And so we'll be closing the road up there, and we'll let people know when we close it for a couple days.
This is on Black Falls?
On Hill West.
On Hill West.
Yeah,
Ah.
no, we can't close Black Falls.
I was gonna say, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, the Hill West, but people can get around both ends.
Yeah.
We'll put signage when we do that. It'll be a lot easier.
Do you know, is there something going on this,
Your road?
yeah,
Yeah, Consolidated got a hold of me and they've gotta dig that up. I
oh,
guess they got a problem with the line underground there, so they're either doing it tomorrow or Thursday.
okay,
They're gonna run a new line, I think, between the boxes.
cool, sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Yeah, they called me.
Maybe that'll
last week.
help a little with the
Yeah, that's probably why you
shoddy
had the problem.
service.
Yeah, it might. Yeah. And we're looking, we talked to CCR, we're looking around to find an excavator to rent for a month
Okay.
and see what it would cost. We talked to a few other places, but CCR in Essex could rent us an excavator for $5,000 for the month. And so that, we're planning on trying to get that the month of July. Shane will be full-time, and then we'll have 3 guys, so we can get some ditching done and get some culverts done. That's been long overdue.
Okay.
So the easiest way is just to rent it for a month.
And you're looking to start that when?
Around the beginning of July. Yeah, it'll probably be the month of July we'll rent the excavator for.
Okay. Just as a reminder, when you get the CCR's like written quote, just bring it back so we can approve it per the purchasing policy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Scott gave it to me. I gotta find it. Yeah. Okay. And we got denied the grant for paving Fuller Bridge Road. I did get an estimate on paving it from Pike, and it was $180,000, which I didn't think was too bad to do the whole road. But we got denied that, but we got approved for the changing of the culvert, the box culvert by Fuller Bridge. So next step with that is to get a hydraulic study done, just determine what size pipe to put back in. Anything that's over 3 feet, you have to get a hydraulic study done. So I requested that, and then hopefully we can get that project done this year. We've been approved with a grant money, so I don't think there's any town share. So if we
Great.
get that done, and then maybe next year we'll get paid. The first step is to get the culvert changed. And there's a few more culverts up the road that we may be changing this year too.
Good.
Just to get ready for the paving.
That's great.
I think the reason why the paving is more reasonable because you're not letting it get too far along. You're keeping up with the paving, so it's not gonna cost quite as much.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to get it done now. And then we're just continuing to grade right now, and then we're gonna start putting chloride on. So it'll be our final grade, and then we'll put the chloride on to hold the roads in place. So we're just starting that, and then continue trying to get some sweeping done.
Great.
And I think that's it,
Awesome.
yeah.
Any questions for Mark?
Nope.
All right, well, that takes us through Public Works. At this point, if there's no objection, let's hop to visitors. Larry, do you have anything for visitors this evening?
Yeah, I wanted clarification of what Dean was gonna do with those bids. I couldn't quite understand everything he said he was gonna do. You could just give me a quick lowdown on that?
Yeah, so Dean is gonna bring the bids back to Brian, who is the engineer at Du Bois King. They've got a kind of a review criteria that they go through each bid package with to ensure adherence to all of the required parts of it, so to make sure that all the different forms were signed properly, everything was, and then they'll also do probably a review of the numbers, just to make sure that things don't look drastically crazy. And then they will come back to us with the, how did he phrase it? He'll come back with the lowest responsive bid.
Yeah,
So basically, he'll come back with the lowest bid that met all the criteria.
That's what I was gonna cross you on. Thank you, I'm done.
Thanks, Larry. All right, there's no one else here in the room for visitors, and I don't see anybody else on Zoom.
Is Anita with Larry doing?
Oh yeah, sorry, Larry, does Anita have any questions or anything for visitors?
The young lady says no.
Okay, well, give her our best.
I will.
All right, so at this point, we've been bouncing around a little bit, but let's go to old business at this point and work through that. And then we can wrap up the meeting with just the last couple things under new business. So the first thing under old business was regarding the wastewater project. And so at the last meeting, we talked about coming back to do just a review of the budget. We also want to do a review of some of the engineering plans as it pertains to the easements. I was hoping we'd have some draft easement language to look at tonight, but we don't have that quite yet.
oh, okay.
So if it's okay with folks, we're gonna kind of table the easement discussion until we have something to look at. But the budget update, we can certainly look at this evening. So I'm gonna do a quick screen share. Okay. Can everybody see? Oops. Now I can't see it.
Some big numbers.
All right, so starting over here on the left, project total cost. So the total cost of construction right now, based on the inflationary costs and everything else we're looking at, is $16,817,000. That's going to change as we get into final engineering and things go out to bid and everything else, but that's the number that we're looking at right now. It has raised from the 12.9 I think we were looking at initially, which we expected. Funding sources that we've used are listed here in the box. So we've got the USDA grant, that's for $6 million and change. That came with the RD loan amount that we'll talk about in a second. But we've got $6 million and change from USDA in a grant. We've got $375,000, which is subsidy money from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Subsidy money is money that we get that we do not need to pay back. It's basically a grant. We've got $30,000 from the USDA in the form of a search grant. That's already been expended. CDS grant, this is the congressional money. That's $2.8 million. We've got 2 ARPA grants from the state of Vermont. These are coming in different fiscal years. The first one is for about $500,000. The second one is for just over $2.2 million. We also have 2 pollution control grants from the state. The first one is at $267,000. The second is at $2.5 million and change. The reason why the ARPA grants and the PC control grants are split is essentially because we've also split the project into 2 different projects. So this box over here, Village and Center, it's not a big deal to really get down in the weeds on or worry about, but different funding sources are looking at the projects differently. And we did it that way so that we could draw on, basically go back to the same well twice for money. Because as 2 projects, we can try to get it funded twice, and then also certain funding sources are looking to support the project in different ways. So right now the split here is basically just a ratio factor. So some of these numbers aren't going to quite trickle out this way. For example, the CRRP award, this one, that $1 million, that's actually just for the centers project, because the criteria for that award had to do with economic development and housing in the center. So this box here, the numbers are going to be kind of moving around, but it's just a reminder that the project is considered 2 different projects depending on the funding source. This here is still kind of the main soup to nuts, everything in, how much money have we raised?
The village, you have less users there too,
Yes,
in the village.
yep, less to build, less
Same
users.
with the water,
Yep.
yeah.
So total project cost, 16.8 million and change, we've raised 15.8 million and change. So that leaves the ultimate loan amount that we're gonna need, as it stands now, at $1 million. Rural Development has authorized us for 4.9 million in loan. If folks remember way back when they gave us the award, we had 4.9 million earmarked for our use from Rural Development. So that's gonna be the final loan, 1 million. The interest rate that we have locked in is 1.13%, which is awesome considering what interest rates are doing. It's a 30-year loan. The annual debt payment on that loan is $39,521.76, give or take. These numbers are going to fluctuate a little bit depending on things, but right now you're looking at about $40,000 annually in debt service. The operation and maintenance costs, and these are conservative, meaning it's a little high probably, but right now the O&M costs are pegged at $92,000 annually. So if you combine these two, $39,000 and $92,000, this is the total annual system cost, basically. What are we paying every year for this system, both in debt and to make it work? $131,521.80, give or take. The local option tax, we had budgeted to raise $35,000 annually. If you if you back out 35,000 from the 131,000 number, this is the annual cost to users, this 96,521, that number there, right?
Yeah.
And so if we split that between the number of ERUs, or equivalent residential units, that basically is the way that they get everybody to measure the same way. So one house might be one ERU, but the snowshoe might be multiple ERUs, right? Because they're using more water, if that makes sense, because of the restaurant. So
Oh, that's how we get two imagery, because there's 186 water.
exactly. So like the ERU
okay.
count's gonna shift a little bit, but the day one ERU count we're using right now is 283. That accounts for, the last number I had was 175 day one connections.
That's not, well, yeah, it was like 186, yeah.
Yeah, and again, these numbers might tick up or down one or two as we kind of figure it all out in the end, but so day one connections, 175 physical connections, 283 is the ERU count. System's being built to accommodate 373 ERUs, so that's kind of that growth capacity we've got there. But essentially, if you take this annual cost to users and split it among the number of users, you get the equivalent user rate of $341 annually.
Per year.
Per year.
Wow.
And if more users come on over the next 30 years, that rate will go down annually.
It will go down, O&M costs might go up, so there'll be some fluctuation there.
Okay.
Now just one of the metrics the state uses for affordability is percentage of mean household income. So, interesting note, our 2019 mean household income, that number right there, based on census data was 36,935. The 2021 data came in with an MHI for Montgomery at 30,500. So our MHI has actually gone down since the last census. Using this new MHI data and looking at this number, the 341, this puts the equivalent user rate at 1.1% of mean household income. I only put that there because the state and the feds basically look at targeting like 2% of mean household income.
Yeah.
Like 2%, they're like, that's pretty good. That's where we want to go. So at 1.1, we're almost half of that.
So we went through that with the water system.
Yeah. All these numbers up here, looking at basically grant funding versus non-grant funding. This project is being funded through 94% grant funds.
Because
So-
your average usage rate for water system is like 400 a year.
Yep.
So, you know.
So we're looking at right now with this math for $341 a year as a average user rate. Project wide, we're looking at 94% of this coming from grant funds. Now, a really interesting thing is over in this yellow box. So to date, we have brought in
I think you did the last meeting around 20,000.
hang on, I have it written down here. So we did get our second payment. So we've now seen 2 quarters of local option tax payments, which are totaling $43,000.
For two.
The first one was $20,212. The second payment was $22,948. So we've seen 2 quarters of local option tax payments, and we're at $43,000. So if you spitball and say, okay, our local option tax was estimated at $35,000. Let's say we end up raising $70,000 through the local option tax annually. That would mean that the annual cost to users would be more like $61,500, right? Because you take the local option tax revenue off of this total system cost, this 131,
Yeah.
that number there. So if you boost the local option tax revenue to $70,000, that drops the annual cost to $61,521.
Wow.
That would mean that the annual user equivalent rate would be $217,
Wow.
which is about 0.7% of mean household income. So that's currently where the numbers stand as far as money in, what the numbers look like, what the user fees are lining up to be, funding sources, all that.
And that's, so 30 years from now, obviously prices will change and, you know, O&M and everything, but hypothetically, once this loan is all paid off, users will still only continue to pay $217 annually.
In 30 years, when the loan is paid off, that will remove the debt service calculation. So annual debt payment, this line right here, line 19.
Yeah.
Like that line would disappear from the equation, and then users would only be responsible for the O&M costs.
Okay.
Of course, after 30 years, you'll want your O&M cost maybe.
Right, I mean, they may double, who
Yeah.
knows, but.
Yeah.
But just remember that in 30 years, when the note is paid off, the local option tax automatically sunsets.
Yeah,
So the town could
choose to keep it.
vote to keep it and have it pay. Actually, I take that back. I gotta look at the language that was put in that charter
Yeah.
because it's the local option tax money goes towards debt service, only debt service on the system.
Yeah. So I think once the debt's paid off.
The question would be, does the annual O&M costs count as debt?
Yeah.
If it does, then the local option tax would continue for the life of the system, and potentially cover operations and maintenance almost. So anyway,
Huh.
so right now the numbers are looking pretty favorable.
Yeah, it says so.
As far as sequencing of all this, and this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but basically, 2 numbers that aren't showing up here because they're not associated with construction are these engineering planning advance numbers. I don't know why they're not baked into this table over here, but they're not because of the way the state counts for them. But we've used these 2 funding sources. We're now in this CWSRF planning and design loans and subsidy, so that's what we're drawing money on now. The next step is going to be looking to at least the first ARPA award to use in part for land purchase. The balance we can put towards something else. We then go through the full RD loan expenditure, the loan goes into repayment, and then we use up the grant money from RD. And then essentially what's left over goes into a balloon payment on the loan. And the way that this works here is that these different funding sources work in different ways. So for example, like the CRRP award is a reimbursement rate. So like they will reimburse a certain percentage of the expenses. So for anything that's a reimbursement rate, we are gonna have to get bridge financing to basically bring us through to get our portion until the end of it. At the end of it, the bridge financing rolls into the final loan and then we balloon payment. And then the balloon payment is planned with this 2.8 million here from the CDS grant. So Aaron and I are still trying to figure out kind of exactly how much interim financing we're gonna need and kind of like how to set that up. But we are gonna have to get interim financing for, I wanna say last time we looked, it was potentially around 3 million. But the way that this is working, it should be relatively quick turnaround in terms of shifting one to the other. Initially, one of the steps here was actually to refinance this into CWSRF, so the bond bank would hold the loan. Interest rates have risen to a point now where that doesn't make any sense. It's actually a good thing because that transition from RD to the bond bank could take up to 3 months for the paperwork to process, and that's 3 months of carrying costs on the borrowed money. So we're gonna not have that. One other interesting note is just over the life of the loan, the total interest that I think we're gonna pay, Aaron and I crunched this earlier, is gonna be about 185,000, which isn't really that bad on $1 million note over 30 years.
No.
So that's the current state of play with the budget.
Charlie, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Real quick, and I don't mean to add a bunch of confusion with a dumb question, but going back to your spitball estimate of $70,000 on the local option tax,
Yep.
rather than lowering the user fee, would we be better off to add it to the payment, to the loan, so the loan gets paid off sooner?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just trying to process the question, because finance is a
It's like
number.
paying your mortgage off sooner by paying more money than what your payment is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we paid off more, we could pay it off sooner. Would,
Therefore, the sunshine on the 1% comes earlier.
yeah, I'm just trying to think if we put,
You don't have to answer that now.
yeah, wouldn't we? Yeah, I just want to make sure that as we do that, because the main thing here is to make sure that the user fees stay as low as possible. And
But
so
that doesn't help all the other taxpayers.
yeah, but remember the only impact to the rest of the taxpayers, and I'm not saying only like it's not a thing, but it's just the local option tax, right? Because there's no impact on the property tax, but that 1% is an impact to the taxpayers.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay? Get
Yeah.
back to me.
Yeah.
I probably won't want to go from Aaron on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so that's where things stand right now with the budget. And so that now is it's recorded. This recording will be posted online, so folks can watch this again and see that spreadsheet again. I can also make it available to anybody who wants it. Feel free to email me, ask me. Great. So, like I said, when we get more info on the easements and stuff, I'll bring that template back. And also the ordinance is the other thing that we're gonna have to look at sometime soon.
Yeah.
So that's pending as well. Any other questions around the wastewater project or anything we talked about or?
No.
Alright. Streetscape project update, there's no updates at this point with that one. We did meet with the engineers again, was it last week or the week before?
Yeah.
And basically laid out what our guardrails are, no pun intended, for like what we're gonna build. And they're gonna go back and do some legwork, run it by V-Trans a few more times to make sure that we're getting their buy-in in real time, so the engineers aren't doing work that we're gonna have to undo. But at the base of it, it's still what we talked about, sidewalks back where the sidewalks went, the potential for some increased parking at the rec center, sidewalks to the rec center, all that kind of stuff. So that's the only update there.
So have we just completely abandoned the idea of on-street parking?
Yeah, for now. Yep. The only place that we're trying to push for designated on-street parking is at the rec center. To try to push out the shoulder there and actually put real shoulder parking. So right now everybody pulls off onto the grass and some people are like a little tippy. So if we can push that out
Yeah,
and put designated parking there to have the sidewalk run, that's the idea.
So the idea is that, given all of these amendments to the original engineering plan, V-Trans would continue to keep it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, yeah, the goal is
If
to.
the ultimate end, if the V-Trans comes back to this all at the end and is like, no, we just don't want it no matter what you do, then, then what?
I don't know, we cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, alright.
Yeah,
we're going through this, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Is there no like, with this funding opportunity with the USDA loans and everything, and the fact that, in my opinion, parking in Montgomery Center is really critical. Like, if we want our economy to grow as a town and we want to develop and like, you know, prosper as a community, that's just like something we need. So with that loan available at this time, is there any way to like, I don't know, use Back Street or use like commandeer some other space that could be kind of,
yeah, I mean, outside of bulldozing 98 Main Street and putting in a parking lot.
love that idea.
And I don't think,
Yeah,
If only the post office would move to that bank building.
yeah.
I
which
know.
they're not.
I know.
I mean, the other idea, and this is, you know, not a real idea, but build a parking garage at the town lot.
yeah,
But there are also limits to the USDA loans that we've got, because those were applied for under a much different criteria of streetscapes work. And so if we do go to that well, we would just have to, if or when we go to that well, we need to cross-check what we're building against that criteria.
Okay.
Because we do have access to that money until the end of 2026.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
like rec center parking would be great, you know,
Yeah.
to have that there for events and things. It's
Yeah.
you know, when
Yeah.
I just think about like in the middle of winter when there's 7 cars parked
I
on
know.
in front of Bernie's, or when you have prom
Yeah.
and there's 100 cars
Right.
parked up and down Main Street. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
Well, one thing
Yeah.
too, just to keep in mind, is that like if we redo the sidewalks and we put in the raised curb, that will eliminate what is right now rogue on-street parking in
but
certain
then there's
places.
no parking.
Right.
yeah.
So then what? Everybody's gonna park up here, you know, or everybody's gonna park in the MCA parking lot or places that they're not supposed to park.
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
I wish I had a better
I
answer
know.
for you.
Yeah,
And there's no like,
I just,
you know, what was, I forget her name, who came and said that there was that state funding that if there was like a middle ground where it was not the town's road and not V-Trans road, it was kind of like a middle where we both had ownership over it and
Yeah, thank you.
responsibility.
yeah.
And the funding came in to support that.
Remember that?
Bethany said it?
Bethany, yes, thank you.
I don't remember. I didn't think there was a middle ground.
No.
I thought it was
No.
either we
One
took
way or the
over the
other.
road or they kept the road.
Right. And even though we could
Just-
have that 15-foot from the center to the edge, they still said no.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
alright,
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's
so, yeah,
yeah, okay,
It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
It is.
it's a big bummer.
so we're moving ahead. We'll wait to see what they come back with as far as amendments to that plan, and then we'll review them once we get them.
Yeah.
So that's the streetscape update. The 98 Main Street update. At this point, it's just a case of trying to find money to renovate the building. The Montgomery Community Project, which is what we've talked about a couple times here. This is the project that Dan Kahn is leading for like a business accelerator shared workspace. So they are 100% interested in moving into the 98 Main Street location, the other side of it. They did send us a proposal that essentially is asking for money out of the town's ARPA allocation to put towards renovations to the building.
We were planning on using that money to renovate this building.
Well, so the other thing here is that Liz and Aaron are now trying to chase down opportunities for additional ARPA money, not the municipal ARPA allocation money the state's got.
Isn't there any energy efficiency money too?
Yes.
I mean,
So there's money from the
Yeah.
state, ACCD, Vermont Community Development Program. There's implementation grants up to 500,000. There's access mobility grants anywhere from 5 to 100,000. Money for weatherization, efficiency, municipal fuel switching, money for buildings with structural or blighted issues. Aaron and Liz went to a meeting in Richford today with a number of folks from the state to learn more about these opportunities, and they are now starting to poke around with the different state agencies. The takeaway that they got from that meeting was essentially there's enough money kicking around, which is in the state, which is through ARPA, that, as they've put it, we could potentially get the project done with other money and not even touch the municipal allocation that we received.
oh,
Now, I don't know if that's possible. We'll have to see. And we also have to look at what's funding what. A town can apply for multiple buildings, not just one. But essentially the next step here is to figure out what is the rental costs to that building, what are the rental costs to this building, and where can we go get other people's money to help pay for it.
so how wasn't this had a bid process?
Yeah, so they have the RFP,
Yeah.
is still out.
Okay.
I don't think that's closed yet, so they still are waiting to get more proposals back from the RFP process.
Okay,
So as soon as that comes back, we'll get an update on where that stands.
okay.
Yeah.
Is the community, are they planning on using the basement also?
I don't believe so.
Is that basement gonna have any sort of determinate use?
I don't know.
I wouldn't plan on doing
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I imagine it'd be part of the gutting when you do all the mold remediation and everything, so.
Yeah, the question is gonna be like,
We fixed that basement plenty of times. so.
Ugh.
yeah, I think the question is gonna be, can we remediate it and then do something with the basement where we can
Yeah.
mitigate future issues with water or something like that, but maybe not make it completely usable space?
Good thing that teen center was in there all those years.
Yeah. That's why the kids from Montgomery are extra strong immune systems. So that's the update there. So it's just about finding money. I still need to get word back from the post office as to whether or not they will bring any money to the table for any renovations. So that's another place that we can look. So that's the latest and greatest on those projects. So if we go back to new business, we have taken care of item A,
I
item
guess
B.
I still have one thing under old business.
Oh, yeah.
For water is the, that Reagan Road project.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
um,
She did.
I've gotta get a hold of their number too, because we'll be doing their paperwork.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get a hold of them too. Yeah,
Um,
so we get that project done.
Black and Gray roll. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to them since the week before Christmas.
Oh,
so,
okay. I know Derek's in touch with them
Yeah,
some. So,
Yep.
Yeah,
I will circle back to them. I'll get you their contact info too.
okay, yeah.
Alright, so we've taken care of listers, taken care of resignation, taken care of conservation commission, taken care of website contract. Okay, last non-standard item is just the adoption of a local emergency management plan. This is the one that we had to amend because Brent was the second point of contact. Brent resigned, we appointed Doug. So all of this has been amended now, to reflect all that, so,
Sweat is still
Did
on.
anybody talk to, yeah.
yeah, so Sweat, so I did reach out to Sweat, he is still interested in serving,
Greg
so
is, okay.
Greg is still listed
Yeah.
here. It's amended to show Doug, and then my information, the plan itself, I've gone back through and removed Brent and added Doug where that was, referencing
So
the
you
deputy.
updated it, yeah.
But that's the only thing that we needed to do, so this is ready to go.
So I'll make a motion to sign the 2023 local emergency management plan as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. So next up, liquor licenses, tobacco license. This is just an amendment to Mindful Bellies. Last time we approved their license. They also have an outside consumption permit that they've tacked onto that. So the motion would be to approve Mindful Bellies, this is Omakase, outside consumption permit.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to approve by Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Leanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Next up, we have fleet permits. Tonight, we are looking at A&D Excavating, Blue Collar Septic, Gut Excavating, Endless Tracks LLC, Fred's Plumbing and Heating.
So I'll make a motion to approve the fleet permits for A&D Excavating, Blue Collar Septic, God Excavating, Endless Tracks LLC, and Fred's Plumbing and Heating, Fred's Energy.
All right, we have a motion from Mark to approve the slate as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you have approved the slate. This last item here is executive session, 1 VSA 313A2. This references negotiations regarding the sale or purchase of real property. This is related to the need to purchase land for the wastewater project. And the statutes allow us to go into executive session to discuss this kind of a matter. Because if we did it in the open, whoever we're going to try to buy the land from can hear all of our secrets and our plans. So the motion would be to enter into executive session.
I'll make a motion to enter into
To
executive
discuss.
session to discuss land purchase.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of entering into executive session, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We are now entering executive session at 7:49 p.m.